All right. I wanted to welcome everybody tonight. Yes, it's Michael Silvers and it is unmuted. Sandy, I've been practicing that. And let me tell you how many times I still get that wrong. But I wanted to welcome everybody here tonight. It's great to have you back on. It's always about education, information, learning, getting your voice out there and making a difference. We have an amazing team, of course, and they're not just team, they're co-patriots. They're part of everything that we do with Mr. Jeff Ross and Sandy Grigsby. Welcome again, you two. I could not do this. They are my co-hosts. Could not do that. They actually do most of the talking. Yeah, yeah. Without them, this show wouldn't be anything. So, and we bring exceptional guests. Sometimes we have a conversation. Sometimes whatever that conversation looks like, we bring greatness out, or we just have a conversation about how we're going to make this planet a better place. And we've done it over and over and over, and we'll continue to do it. You can see who we are in the show notes. You can like and subscribe. We can keep moving forward, whatever it is to you. And we're easygoing. We can have cats running behind us. Kids might come through the shot. Remember the COVID days? Most of my phone calls were grandkids running back and forth. Does not matter. And I'm still telling people to this day, it is the way it is. The life is truly about the next generation. It's about the people's animals. It's about life. It's about things that happen. And we keep moving forward. So with that being said, I'm going to let Jeff introduce our wonderful guest tonight. Thank you for taking your time. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Jeff Ross.
Well, thank you, Michael. It's an absolute pleasure to be back here on another amazing episode here with Sandy and yourself. And we have an amazing guest here lined up today, Arjun, who has 22 years of lending experience. But what I really want to get into is this whole conversation around what it takes to be a 2 times Taekwondo World Champion and former head coach for Team USA. Like, I think this whole topic really comes back to, like many of our other guests, it comes back to that whole conversation around leadership in sport, leadership in business, leadership in every area of our life. So Arjun, thank you very much for coming to our awesome podcast, Unmuted, where real voices get loud. Thank you very
I
much for joining us.
appreciate it. Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys.
Cool. So let's just start here. What does it take to, become a 2 times world champion?
Well, there's the obvious, right? Like a lot of commitment, dedication, and extreme hard work. But really, the formula for it is just have like being, or I should say, the biggest component to the formula, because you can only do so much. But the team around you, the people that you have around you, like the coaches, the people that help out in mindset, the strength trainers, like that's the secret sauce. If you've got the right people around you, they can take an average guy like myself and take them from here to here. And you could also conversely be one of the most talented guys. But if you've got I can just say it here, shit team, and it's just not a good team or a good group of people around you, it'll actually bring you down. So I would say in both championship runs in 2007 and 2014, it was directly attributed to the really great people in the circle that I had. And it was primarily the same. We only added a couple more things, but I never really deleted anything. So I got very fortunate in 2007 with the right group of people around me. And I added a little bit extra to that for 2014. But yeah, it was, I'm still very grateful to all those people and keep in touch with all them years later.
Mm. Sandy?
I just think you're badass doing taekwondo. I used to do karate, and
That's right. She
it
says
didn't
it
last very
correctly.
long for me. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was testing for my black belt, and I had a dispute with the instructor, and I walked off. I was making my point. I was young. My dad was pissed, so I didn't follow through on it. I should have because they wanted me to compete, but
It's okay.
one of
You
those
could always
things.
go back and finish it. It's never too late.
Yeah. It,
Yeah.
it, it feels a bit late for me now. I'm here in Thailand. I think I might pivot.
Yeah.
Well, my wife is actually starting to do Taekwondo for the last 3 years. She's 50. She's now a red belt. She's, wanted to find a way to connect with our 3 boys.
Yeah. I
And
remember you told me this, Jeff.
yeah, Taekwondo. So she's, I'm a little bit scared now because I think she could probably kick my ass.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
That's yeah.
Let's
That's
be honest, Jeff. Even before the taekwondo, she was probably fully capable, right?
Yeah, most likely.
So, okay, so what's next for you?
Well, I mean, I had the very fortunate pleasure after I retired in 2014. That was also the beginning of my coaching run. So I coached for 10 years, a little over 10 years as a co-head coach for Team USA. And quite honestly, like that was an even bigger gift to get to be around people and travel the world and help run our team with my other coaching counterpart and influence change in a special group of athletes was a real gift. It was a privilege. And so when I stepped down from that a few years ago after our second daughter was born, and I have girls because you can just look here in the background and see like there's Little Mermaid desks in our office and everything in my home office. But my wife said, that's it for the travel because it is very demanding. But we ended on a beautiful note. Our men's team won the overall team gold medal, which has never happened in U.S. history, and that was a really really good note to end on. But I've stayed in touch with the team. I still advise and help them fundraise, and I'm very close to the coaches that have taken over, and I talk to them weekly, so I stay connected. But this has allowed me to then be more focused on, of course, family above all. And then also all my work in mortgage and real estate advisement. And I do a lot of media and speaking for the industry. So I've kind of filled my schedule now with those types of appearances and commitments. So I guess I moved on from one thing to another.
I love
Yeah.
that. So I want to just dive in there. So how's transitioning from, being an athlete and being a coach, and then how have those skills really helped you into the business world, into the, into the lending world and the mortgage world? How's that helped to sort of separate you from everybody else out there?
Well, I think the advantage I had, whether you want to call it unfair or fair, but I guess it's my privilege to have, so it's fair for me, is that I've just always been involved in transformation, taking someone from like aspiring
Mm,
athlete to world champion, or to someone with no confidence to now having lots of confidence. Even if they didn't win a medal, they're a transformed human being, right? Or a better human being. And I do the same thing in my work. I take someone from being a saver to an investor, a renter to an owner. It's someone who's like whether I coach within the industry, someone who's kind of not a well-known commodity into becoming someone who's very influential, doing lots of media, social media content, speaking up and being highly visible in this industry. So I still get to coach, which is where I feel fulfilled in this space. And so in that sense, I feel like it was a very natural and easy pivot. And it's also kept it to be very rewarding. But yeah, that's kind of the modality I'm in. I'm still just shifting a person and taking them from point A to some other point in the future.
yeah, helping to bring out the best in people.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely.
Michael,
Michael,
you got
Michael, we can't hear you.
no, can't hear you. This is
He
unmuted.
looks like he wants to
It's
say
muted.
something so profound too. I'm like, I can't hear you.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're still muted, Michael. You're unmuted. We need to unmute you. Whilst he's working that out, Sandy, did you have another question for Arjun?
Yeah. So, Arjun, right now, with everything going on in the United States, what do you see for somebody who's looking to buy or sell a home? Or do you have any tips or advice for them?
I think, it comes down to the Warren Buffett advice. As crazy as this might sound, but just hear me out. When everyone is fearful is when you want to be bullish. And when everyone's kind of really bullish, you want to be pausing or running the other way. And I think this current climate, economic climate, and how it ties into housing could not be more in line or parallel to that thesis. Right now, with what's going on in the global space, right, and the geopolitical strife and turmoil that's happening is actually creating much more of an opportunity now for buyers to be able to break into this market. Buyers have had a really tough time because of increased competition, very limited inventory to choose from. We still have this huge imbalance in the United States of like so many people that have their hand in the air saying, I want a home, and there's not enough homes for them. And because of those very simple and basic supply and demand economics or metrics, if you will, it's why housing can't crash. A lot of people have been saying the market's going to crash. It's not going to invert. It can't, just based on those things. So then how does one break in? You have to break in when you catch a lull in the market, when there's decreased competition. And right now, because of elevated rates, because of higher oil prices as a result of the war, because of chaos or people not feeling very certain, you have decreased competition. So I've seen in the 20 plus years I've been in this industry, the best deals for buyers are coming across my desk now. They're negotiating better terms. They're not having to overpay for as much of a house, depending on the market you're in. In many cases, they're even able to come in underneath because of all the noise. So that noise is actually to your benefit if you're a serious buyer. It doesn't mean that every single person should buy. I'm never one of those advocates because people say, oh, he's just a salesman. He's in mortgage or real estate and he thinks everyone should own. I don't think everyone should own. First of all, that would be imbalance in the marketplace. If every single person owned, we'd have no renters. It would be a little bit awkward. So that's unrealistic. But also, it's a major financial commitment. It's a huge, tremendous responsibility to own something, particularly here in California and in the Bay Area, where the property taxes are high, the deferred maintenance is very expensive. And if you don't have the stomach for that, you should continue renting. There's nothing wrong with renting, provided that you're doing something else with your money. Owning a home, particularly in the Bay Area or in San Francisco, really it's twofold. Number one, it's forced savings, which is what it is for anyone who buys a home. It's like a piggy bank that forces you to save because you're slowly building equity. And where you may not have financial discipline or spending discipline in other aspects of your life, paying the mortgage, which you must pay, does give you that guardrail. But the other thing that the Bay Area presents, because it's such a unusually fast appreciating market, is the asset grows in value at a much faster clip than it does anywhere else. And in other markets, you don't really count on that. It's just very, very nominal how much it grows. But here, it's not unusual to experience 6 to 8, 9% appreciation year after year. And when you've bought, say, a $900,000, $1 million, a $2 million asset, that's a very good return on your investment of what you put down as a down payment. So, the opportunity is big for people that are using all this noise to their advantage right now. And for those that are sitting it out, I say, as long as you're doing something with your money and investing it elsewhere, because I'm a big financial literacy advocate. And we have a major kind of lifestyle inflation or a lifestyle creep crisis in this country where everyone outspends what they make. They live on so much credit. We have credit card debt at all-time highs here in the United States. Auto loan debts at an all-time high. Auto loan delinquencies are at an all-time high. I just spoke this morning to a group of real estate agents, and I was reporting to them, at no other point in U.S. history have there been more people that are carrying a $1,000 plus car payment a month. That's a massive car payment, right?
It's crazy.
And it's not even that these are that great of cars, but they're carrying, so if they're doing that and they're spending, that tells you, and the car should only be a small percentage of your actual outflows, based on what you're making. But if that's $1,000, that must mean your rent or your mortgage is quite expensive also, and some of the other lifestyle things. So again, managing your lifestyle is really important. As long as you're doing something else with your money, you might be renting and then investing with that difference because your rent is so manageable. Fantastic. If that's what you're doing, great. You might own investment property and actually still be renting because your rent is just so appealing and affordable. It's like too good to pass up on, but you put the money to work for you in another market. Great. And if you own, and you're responsibly paying down on your mortgage, you're doing well also. So I'm an advocate for that opportunity, but also I say with caution and like people need to do it when it's right for them.
Michael, you're back.
I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to go back. We're going to go back. And you're right, because one thing, I've been around the markets a long time. I was part of that move where we took Robert Kiyosaki around the world, and oh my God, did we hear about this all day long? Don't sell, don't sell, don't sell. But with everything going on, and part of what's happening right now, first of all, it's great for my industry, but we'll just leave that part alone. Because whenever people get into that fear, they also want something new. They want something different. They want to look at a different way to do it. And I think there are a lot of different ways to do it. But partly what I was going to go back to was in the martial arts world, it is sometimes you have to do things differently. You have to look at, when you look at an opponent, when you look at somebody in front of you, you've taught this before, there's a certain structure you do, but there might be a little bit of different move. It might be a 1% pivot to the right that brings the match in. And I think part of what you're doing is, did you ever read Chet Holmes, about Chet Holmes? Take a look at his stuff, because he was with Tony forever. We used to, put him on with Tony. They built Business Mastery, but it was always that 10%. What are you doing with that 10%? And are you making 10% on 10%? Always. And I love what you're saying, because you're teaching them to keep investing. Invest in yourself. Invest in those around you. Always be helpful. Sometimes you have to shift and pivot, and I think that makes a difference. And I won't go back to the martial arts conversation, just because I was going to talk about way back when I took Ed Parker's Kempo Karate, and I sort of got the same thing, because as I was ranking, had some disagreements, but that's okay. It's a story for another day. And I think what you're doing, Arjun, is you're creating this. We want to create financial literacy, which we always talked about. and I have financial independence, but that means different things to different people. How do you go through that with clients? Because we talk about that all the time. Because I'll say, hey, big house, big lifestyle, big, and that might not be what they want.
Right.
It's what is that for them, and how do you get through that to sort of get to that? Because that's going to be their why. That's going to be the whole reason they're going to do what they're going to do, and if they'll even listen to you.
Agreed. Well, I think it goes back even further. We have a lot of conversation when someone connects with us about wanting to buy or enter into real estate on some level, whether they're looking to invest or take part in a syndication or buy something just to live in. I ask them, like, why are you doing this? Are you doing it because everyone else around you is doing it and you feel like you're missing out, which was a huge part of the COVID rush, but so was buying toilet paper also. Herd mentality doesn't benefit anyone. In the end, sometimes you look like a jerk and you got a lot of excess toilet paper that you don't need. So maybe you don't need a house, and which is why a lot of people ended up with buyer's remorse. It's a huge, there's been a lot of surveys on it from well-known publications and even financial websites, including CNBC, where they'll interview a lot of millennials that bought during the COVID rush and they had buyer's remorse. They're like, all this deferred maintenance and all these other unexpected things. So I ask, like, what are you motivated by right now? Or why are you doing this? Are you being evicted? Did you come into some money and you just want to maybe do something responsible? Are you getting married? Is there a life event happening? So I need to know that, because those are, as you said, Michael, those are going to be the motivating buttons that we have to push when things either get tough during this process, or I need to be reminded as to why they're doing it, because it's different for everyone else. But sometimes we have to go back even further. The conditioning or the upbringing and the exposure that people have had to money and to wealth creation or even wealth evaporation, and I'll expand on that here in just a second, it's going to play a major part in this. How I talk to a Gen Z buyer versus a millennial is very different. A millennial watched their parents lose everything during the housing market crisis. So their exposure to housing and even their tolerance for risk within this asset class, or even to approach it, is very different. Many of them are like, they don't want to buy. The worst of life happened when they were kids, watching their parents lose everything, having to sell the house, them having to move in with grandparents. Like, there was nothing great about that. Conversely, a Gen Zer has experienced all kinds of great things in their life as a result of their parents owning real estate or owning their own home. The vacations they took, the expansion in their overall family's net worth, the ability to kind of go to the colleges that they want to because their parents were, able to tap the equity. And I did plenty of home equity lines of credit for those types of clients over the last few years when they sent those kids to school. So, again, past exposure, past like either trauma or just or just how they experienced and what their either traumas or, the opposite of that around money is going to be very, very important. And then, to fully answer the question there, Michael, once we understand that, then the financial literacy conversation can take on the correct pathway. But it really depends on, we have to get to the manifest of what their feelings are around money. Was there a lot of it around growing up? Was there very little of it? Is there shame around it? What kind of experiences was there in the family? And then at present, what are the motivations for why you want to do what you do? If we take that and this, so you almost have to play the role of a therapist, and you understand this well. And then you put these two together, and then we can have a much better outcome and journey together. It's never a one size fits all approach. And that's where my industry, and I think many other industries within financial advisement, have changed and evolved. Before, it was just reading off a script and running somebody through an intake process. Now we want to know the story. We want to know about these people individually and all these other pretenses, as I said, because that's ultimately going to help us, create a very nice ending for them.
I love that. And talking about the different generations, like as a father of three sort of teenagers coming through now, 14 and 13, what's some advice that you could give me and our listeners too, with young kids? What's some advices that you could give us to be able to help us empower and equip the next generation to be financially literate?
I did a funny piece of content on Instagram with my daughter, who at the time was 6. She came and filmed with me because she's very smart and she's adorable and she does well in these videos that I put out. And then she asked me, she said, "Are you going to pay me for today?" And then I said, "Well, there's an idea. Let's record this because this is really good." And so I handed her $1. I said, "Go ahead and say that again." And then we rolled the camera and she says, "Are you paying me today for these videos?" She says, "You need to pay me today." She didn't even ask me. She says, "You need to." And I said, "Well, here you go. It's $1." And she says, "What am I supposed to do with this?" That's what she said to me. And I said, "Well, you can do a few things. You can spend it, which is what most people would do. or you can save it, which is just going to sit there. And then some other people think that, and that's a responsible thing for a 6-year-old to do, put it in a piggy bank, or you can choose to invest it where it can actually grow. And I think teaching kids those three basically outcomes for a dollar or any currency there in Australia that you hand them, like you've got three options with it. You can spend it if you want. You can choose to save it, where it's just going to sit and it loses value over time. And that's a tough conversation for a kid. But your kids being teenagers, you can teach them about inflation and how it erodes the buying power. Or you can choose to invest it, and where would you like to do that? And then teaching them that. Because I think the faster that a kid learns about compounding interest and time value of money and how it can grow over time, I mean, that is an invaluable lesson because they don't even teach you that in school.
No.
I mean, we know Michael and Sandy and I, because we all went to school here in the States, like, can tell you, like, they don't teach you that. They don't teach you that in college. It's actually a huge tragedy that they don't. And then you're just kind of expected to figure. They still don't, even after they've been ridiculed, all these institutions for years saying you don't teach kids anything. They just come out of school with a lot of debt, but they know nothing about money. They're still not doing it. So anyways, Jeff, that's what I would be doing with kids. I teach it to, I'm doing it now. She's 7 and we talk about this stuff all the time. I think removing the kind of the stigma or the negativity or the shame around money, also like normalizing it.
Yeah, I
like this
that.
is a good conversation to have. That's like, it's really, really powerful. If we can do that with that generation of kids that are your kids' age around the world, like we're going to have a much healthier class of people that are running the world that are not afraid of money. They're comfortable with it. They understand its good uses and bad uses and how to put it to work for them. And what could go wrong with that?
Yeah, I love it. We have a couple minutes left. Is there something that's, that's what a great conversation that was. We could go on with that for a long time. The literacy in children in schools. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
But it is truly, you have a lot to teach. You have a lot to say. I think there's a lot was packed into that little bit there. But if you were to leave this audience one thought, one idea, maybe even one thing they could start doing today to help moving them forward down that path, what would you say to them?
Pay yourself first. Whatever paycheck you get, you've got your immediate obligations that have to be paid, your rent, your mortgage, whatever. The biggest mistake people make is they then take whatever's left and live their lifestyle on it. And if there's anything left over, they'll save it, which we all know at the end, there is nothing left over. They'd spend it. If you can flip these two, the earlier you understand this, you will leave your friends in the dust. I'm telling you, not in a negative way. Like you will just be at an exponentially greater place financially and overall than they will be. If you're in your 20s and you're listening to this, pay yourself first. So take care of your obligations, fund whatever sort of investment goals or things that you have. And then whatever's left over, you adjust your lifestyle to fit into whatever's left, not the other way around. If you can do that and master that, because I live in a city where people have not mastered that. And I think every big city is kind of like that because people get swept up in the lifestyle and the culture and wanting to just enjoy all that a city has to offer. I totally get it. And they're not wrong for that. But you see this time and time again where the city just chews them up and spits them out because eventually you can't keep up and they leave. And you wonder, like, what happened to that guy? I just had dinner with him. Oh, he's moved home or he left. So, like, he lost his job, whatever. He wasn't able to keep up. So that would be the one bit of advice, Michael. Pay yourself first.
I love it. That's such a great thing because that brings me back to the 10 years and the 10,000 millionaire mind intensives I sat through with Harv. But, and actually Jeff and I were just talking to a gentleman the other day who owns major corporations. And right, remember Jeff? And I said about, that I was with Harv for that long. He's like, I still have my business accounts. I have my this account, my jars. And I thought, okay, that's funny. You took the learning. See, not everybody does that. They don't take the learnings. They don't do what they're, and they go back to the way they want. And you're right. It is very much self-gratification. We want those things quickly. And that advice, everybody, right there, he just gave you gold. Now take it and run with it. So Jeff and Sandy, any last thoughts before we go? And Arjun, this has been amazing. We're going to have you back. There's a lot of things I'm already thinking about having you on. This has been very clear and concise and awesome.
I appreciate it. It's been a gift being on with you guys too. So thank you.
Yeah. Sandy and Jeff, any last?
I have to say, my dad used to always say, pay yourself first. I remember that. And he was right back in the day, and it's still true. And
still true.
Really fast, I want to know, what is your take on, you had said you see different people, different tiers, but what I've noticed with Gen Z, a lot of them are sort of living in the luxury of what their parents offered them, and they're not like, Boys right now are 25 years old and don't even have their driver's licenses. More females do, but the guys aren't doing it. And I don't see them saving the way they do. I mean, I'm here in Thailand and obviously it's a different culture, but I just see these kids like blowing money. And I see it in the US with people too. What
Yeah.
is advice that you could give for them that they're
Well,
not saving
it's
it?
really hard because you're on one end, you're trying to teach them, but then they have these devices in front of them that are constantly showing them to keep up with something that's so far ahead of you.
Bombarded.
And they just can't stop, right? Like it's keeping up with the Joneses. It's because social media will always show you what you're not, right? You're not wealthy enough. You're not having enough fun. You're not dressing nice
Mhm.
enough. You're not tall enough. You're not beautiful enough. You're not successful enough. So then people, because it's planting such deep, deep seated insecurities in all of us, we feel the need. And what's the easiest way to try and get something is to buy it or to fix that problem. Let me just spend
Yeah.
money on this. And then but all it's doing is leaving the world saddled with more consumer debt, more unhappiness. Depression rates are even higher than they've ever been. There's more young kids on antidepressants. Like it's systemically, it's all flawed. And I don't know what the answer is. So I'm just pointing out what I feel the problem is or where its manifest is. But I don't know how we're going to get these devices out of young kids' hands. But I think just it's incumbent upon all of us to, if we're mentoring people or we're related, if you're the uncle or the aunt or the father to these kids, just try and really get in there. And none of that shit's real. Those are
Yeah.
just highlight reels. They only show you the good, and like you're at a different stage. Like don't compare yourself to that.
I think that's a brilliant note to wrap this whole interview up on, and I totally agree with you. As a father of three young boys, the big thing that we're really focused on right now is their character, is their identity, is it's all leadership and mentoring stuff,
Yes.
space, and helping to build up young men that are grounded and strong in their identity, and then using money as a tool and all of those sort of things. And I think that's the answer right there, isn't it? It's about building the character up. Unfortunately, some people out there just don't have the tools to be able to support that conversation. And I think that's where us as thought leaders have a bigger responsibility to step in and have conversations like this and to create that space and that platform for others to lean in and listen. So Arjun, thank you very much for being our guest on Unmuted today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we definitely have to have you come back because it's been an amazing conversation. I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on and applaud you guys for what you're doing, because these are conversations and forums and things that are being led by you guys that need to be discussed and talked about more. So
For sure.
my kudos to you guys and gratitude as well.
Well, I want to
Thank you
thank
so
everybody
much.
for being on. And go ahead, Sandy.
No, I was saying thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
Thanks, my
Wanted
friend.
to thank my co-hosts so much, especially since they're back traveling the world and climbing mountains. It's been great to have everybody on. Arjun, this was an amazing conversation today and one we need to continue. I want to thank all you listeners for taking your time, whether you're driving, you're listening, you're sleeping, who knows, you're getting it through osmosis, but you're on the call with us. If you know, like, and subscribe, if you want to lay a comment, if you want to say just thank you so much, always great to have you on. Always great to have you part of the team and family. You'll have Arjun's information in the show notes because we get to know each other better. We get to learn from them. And there's always an experience or something new to learn that I haven't learned yet, no matter what you think you know. So I want to thank everybody again for tonight. And we're going to go. Everybody, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.